Rex went into that river knowing he wouldn't come back out, not because he didn't think he could save Daniel, but because his body was already failing him, and no one except 3 people knew. The call came in at 11:47 p.m. Possible drowning. Fast-moving water. Officer down. Daniel Hayes was that officer, and Rex, his German Shepherd partner of 7 years, was the only one close enough to do anything about it. But here's what the dispatcher didn't know. What the backup units racing through the dark didn't know. What even Daniel himself didn't fully understand until it was almost too late. Rex had already been cleared for retirement months ago. His paperwork sat in a drawer at the station, signed, approved, done. So why was he still working? Why had Daniel ignored every reminder, every suggestion, every quiet conversation about letting the old boy rest? The answer was buried in a moment most people had forgotten. A warehouse, a rookie cop, 6 hours of darkness and crushing weight. But Rex remembered. And on the night Daniel stepped into that river and vanished beneath the surface, Rex made a choice that would break every heart in the department and reveal a secret that changed everything. Daniel Hayes didn't talk about the warehouse, not at the department, not with his family, not even with himself most days. It had happened 4 years earlier, back when he still flinched at loud noises and second-guessed every decision. A routine call turned nightmare. Structural collapse. Daniel pinned under a steel beam and concrete, alone in the dark, radio just out of reach. They told him later that Rex had refused to leave. That the dog had stayed, pressed against Daniel's side, for 6 full hours while crews worked to free them. That Rex's body heat probably kept Daniel from going into shock. That his presence kept Daniel awake when his mind wanted to drift into something darker. Daniel remembered the smell of dust and rust, the sound of his own breathing, the warmth of Rex's fur against his ribs, and the moment, delirious, half-conscious, when he'd whispered, "I've got you, boy. I promise." He didn't know if he'd meant, "I've got you," or "You've got me." Maybe it didn't matter. After that, Rex wasn't just a canine partner. He was the reason Daniel came back to work, the reason he didn't spiral, the reason he could still trust something in a world that had tried to bury him alive. So when the retirement papers came across his desk 3 months ago, Daniel had stared at them for a long time, then shoved them in a drawer. Because some promises don't have expiration dates, even when maybe they should. The night of the river call started normal. Routine patrol, quiet streets. Rex sitting calm in the back of the cruiser, watching the world slide past with those sharp, intelligent eyes that never seemed to miss anything. Daniel had noticed something, though. Little things. Rex's gait was slightly off when he jumped out of the vehicle. His response time to commands, still good, still professional, was a half-second slower than it used to be. And twice that week, Rex had stumbled getting into the car, just stumbled, caught himself, moved on. But Daniel saw it. He's getting old, Daniel thought. We both are. The call came through dispatch like a punch. Unit 12, we have a possible drowning victim, Jefferson River access point. Caller reports someone went under. No visual confirmation. Daniel's stomach dropped. He knew that stretch of river. Looked calm on the surface. Graveyard underneath. He hit the lights and drove. When they arrived, a woman was standing at the edge of the water, pointing, shaking. He went in after his dog. He's been under too long. Daniel didn't hesitate. He grabbed his flashlight, keyed his radio, called for backup. Then he did something he'd never done before. He looked at Rex, unhooked the leash, and said firmly, "Stay back." Rex's ears flicked. His eyes locked on Daniel. Daniel turned toward the water, and Rex, loyal, aging, quietly dying Rex, made a decision of his own. The water was colder than Daniel expected, shockingly cold. The kind that steals your breath and tightens every muscle in your chest before you can even process what's happening. He swept his flashlight across the surface. Dark water. No movement. Where are you? He waded deeper, knee-deep, waist-deep. The current tugged at him, gentle at first, then insistent. He felt the river bottom shift beneath his boots. Unstable. Slippery. "Sir!" he called out. "Can you hear me?" Nothing. Daniel took another step. The ground disappeared. 1 second he was standing. The next, the current had him, spinning him sideways, dragging him under before he could shout. His flashlight tumbled away into the black. He tried to surface. His gear was too heavy. The current was too strong. His lungs screamed. And in the chaos, underwater, disoriented fighting, Daniel had one clear thought. Rex. I broke my promise. Back on shore, Rex didn't wait. The woman screamed, "The dog, wait!" But Rex was already moving, not the careful, measured approach of a trained canine. This was something else, something primal. He hit the water at full speed, a 70-pound missile of fur and muscle and desperation, and disappeared into the current that had just swallowed his partner. The woman stood frozen, phone shaking in her hand. Backup was still 2 minutes out. 2 minutes Daniel didn't have. Underwater, Daniel's world had gone silent and slow. He wasn't panicking anymore. That was the scary part. His body was shutting down, surrendering to the cold, to the current, to the weight pulling him deeper. He could see the surface above him, rippling and distant, like something from a dream. This is how it ends, he thought distantly. I'm sorry, Rex. Then something hit him. Not the current, not debris, something alive. A dark shape arrowed through the water, impossibly fast, and Daniel felt teeth close around the strap of his tactical vest. Rex. The realization came with a surge of adrenaline and horror. No, boy, you can't. You'll drown too. But Rex wasn't letting go. The dog pulled. Daniel felt himself rising, breaking the surface, gasping, choking on air and water. Rex, he coughed out. Rex, let go! The current slammed them both sideways. Rex went under. Daniel's heart stopped. Then, 10 feet away, Rex surfaced again. Still holding the vest strap, still pulling. They went under together, resurfaced, under again. Each time, Rex was closer to shore. Each time, Daniel realized with creeping dread, Rex is swimming diagonally, against the current, not straight back. That's not something they trained. That's not something you teach. That's something you know, instinctively, desperately, when you're willing to die to save someone. And Rex was dying. Daniel could feel it in the weakening grip, the longer pauses between strokes, the way Rex's body was trembling even in the freezing water. But the dog didn't let go. They hit shallow water with inches to spare. Daniel's knees scraped gravel. His hands found solid ground. He collapsed forward, coughing water, gasping, shaking violently. Rex collapsed beside him. The woman was there suddenly, pulling Daniel further onto shore, screaming into her phone, "They're out! They're out! Send the ambulance now!" Daniel rolled onto his side, reaching for Rex. The dog was breathing, barely. His eyes were half closed, his body limp. Rex, hey. Daniel's voice cracked. Come on, boy. Stay with me. Sirens wailed in the distance. Rex's eyes opened slightly, found Daniel's face, and Daniel saw something there he'd never seen before. Not just exhaustion, relief. Like Rex had been waiting for this moment, like he'd known it was coming, like he'd made peace with it already. No, Daniel whispered. No, don't you dare, Rex. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics swarmed them. Someone wrapped a blanket around Daniel. Someone else was checking Rex, murmuring into a radio, "We need the vet unit now. K9 down." Daniel couldn't feel his body, couldn't think straight. All he could see was Rex lying on the gravel, chest rising and falling in shallow, labored breaths. And all he could think was, "Why didn't you stay back?" "I told you to stay back." But deep down, beneath the shock and the fear, Daniel already knew the answer. Rex had made a promise too, 4 years ago, in a collapsed warehouse, in the dark. And Rex didn't break promises. At the hospital, they separated them. Daniel fought it. "I need to see him. I need to know he's okay." But the medics were firm. Hypothermia. Possible internal injuries. He needed treatment. Rex was rushed to the emergency veterinary unit. Daniel sat alone in a sterile white room, wrapped in heated blankets that did nothing for the cold inside his chest. A nurse checked his vitals. "You're lucky," she said quietly. "That dog saved your life." Daniel didn't respond. Lucky. He didn't feel lucky. He felt like he'd just watched his best friend throw himself off a cliff. An hour passed. Then 2. Finally, a door opened. But it wasn't a doctor. It was Lieutenant Sarah Chen, his supervisor, and behind her a man Daniel vaguely recognized. Gray hair, worn face, the department's senior K9 trainer. Something about their expressions made Daniel's stomach drop. "Is he alive?" Daniel asked immediately. "He's alive," Chen said. "But Daniel, there's something you need to know." The trainer stepped forward. His voice was gentle, careful. "Rex has been sick," he said. "Degenerative myelopathy, neurological condition. We diagnosed it 3 weeks ago." Daniel stared at him. "What?" "It affects coordination, muscle control. It's progressive. There's no cure." The room tilted. 3 weeks? Daniel's voice was hollow. 3 weeks and no one told me? Chen's expression was pained. "We were waiting for the right time. Rex was cleared for light duty until tonight. Tonight was supposed to be his last patrol, a quiet retirement ride." Daniel couldn't breathe. "That's why he stumbled. That's why he was slower. That's why—" "He knew," the trainer continued softly. "Dogs with this condition, they know when their body starts failing. Rex knew he didn't have much time left." Daniel's hands were shaking. "So what? He decided to—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't say it out loud. Because if he did, it would mean Rex had gone into that river knowing he might not survive, and had done it anyway. They let Daniel see him at dawn. Rex was lying on a padded table in the vet unit, IV in his leg, monitors beeping softly. His eyes were closed, his breathing steady but shallow. Daniel walked to his side slowly, like approaching something fragile. "Hey, boy," he whispered. Rex's eyes opened. Barely. And Daniel broke. He pressed his forehead against Rex's neck, one hand resting on the dog's chest, and cried in a way he hadn't since the warehouse. Since the dark. Since the moment he thought he'd die alone. "You didn't have to do that," Daniel choked out. You were done. You earned your rest. You earned it, Rex." Rex's tail thumped once, weak, but unmistakable. "I know, but you needed me." The vet entered quietly, a kind woman with tired eyes. "He's stable," she said. "But Daniel, the condition is advanced. The swim accelerated it. He's lost significant muscle function. He won't recover what he's lost." Daniel nodded, not looking up. "How long?" "Weeks. Maybe a few months if we manage his symptoms well." "Will he be in pain?" "Not if we're careful, but he won't be able to work. He'll need help moving soon. And when the time comes—" She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Daniel nodded again. cleared his throat. Then we make sure he's comfortable. Whatever he needs, I don't care what it costs. The vet smiled sadly. He'll need you most of all. Daniel looked down at Rex, his partner, his savior, his best friend. He's got me, Daniel said quietly. He's always had me. And this time he'd keep that promise. The department wanted to give Rex a medal, a ceremony, press, the works. Daniel declined. He doesn't need a medal, Daniel said. He needs peace. So they gave Rex something better, time. Daniel took a leave of absence, moved Rex into his home. Set up a bed by the window where the morning sun came through. Every morning, Daniel woke up and sat with Rex, brushed his coat, told him stories, reminded him about the good calls, the easy days, the time Rex found a missing kid in under 10 minutes, the time Rex ate an entire pizza off the break room table and looked so guilty Daniel couldn't even be mad, the time, years ago, when Rex stayed. Rex's condition deteriorated slowly. First, his back legs weakened. Then he needed help standing. But his eyes stayed sharp. His tail still wagged when Daniel came home. And every night, Daniel would lie on the floor beside Rex's bed and rest his hand on the dog's chest, over his heart, and whisper, "I've got you, boy. I'm right here." The same words Rex had heard in the warehouse, the same promise. 3 months after the river, Rex stopped eating. Daniel knew what it meant. The vet came to the house, gentle, respectful. "Whenever you're ready," she said softly. Daniel nodded, swallowed hard. He sat on the floor, lifted Rex's head into his lap, and for the last time, Rex looked up at him. "Thank you," those eyes said, "for everything." Daniel smiled through tears. "No, buddy. Thank you." Rex closed his eyes, and when the moment came, when his heart finally slowed and stopped, his head was resting on Daniel's lap. Just like by the river. Just like he'd always wanted. They buried Rex at the department's K-9 Memorial Garden. Full honors, flag, 21-gun salute. Daniel stood beside the grave and didn't cry. He'd done enough of that. Instead, he told a story. "Rex saved my life twice," he said to the small crowd. "Once in a warehouse, and once in a river. But that's not why I'll never forget him." He paused, looked down at the fresh earth. "I'll never forget him because he taught me what loyalty really means. Not obedience, not duty, but showing up, choosing to show up. Even when your body is failing and your time is running out, because someone you love needs you." His voice cracked. He didn't have to come into that river. He'd earned his rest. But he came anyway, because that's who he was. Daniel looked up at the sky, clear, blue, quiet. "Some bonds don't end when duty does," he said softly. "They end when the heart lets go." He knelt, placed a hand on the grave marker. "And Rex," Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper, "you can let go now, boy. I've got it from here." The wind stirred the trees, and for just a moment, Daniel swore he felt something warm and steady pressed against his side, like a promise kept, like a friend saying goodbye, like love that doesn't end, just changes shape.